South African Renault lovers, this is your day. The all-new Captur has finally arrived in our country. And can you believe it? It's been 8 years since the launch of the original Captur in South Africa. And like its namesake, this Renault aims to capture the hearts and minds of buyers looking for a quirky and quite eclectic SUV. So let's see what's changed. The biggest change for me has got to be the front end of this vehicle. We can see Renault's new design language coming through here. We've got quite a large grille, and at the same time, we've got these C-shaped LED headlights. But from the front, you can immediately see that this is a new Renault. Just looking at this new Renault Captur, you can see that this vehicle is higher than the car it replaces, and I love the fact that they kept this black cladding as it gives this vehicle a bit of an off-road appeal. Again, we see the C-shape come through on the rear tail lamps, and it's also got LED lighting technology, which really adds a modern feel to the car. One of the most important attributes of a crossover is boot space. And I'm happy to report that this new Renault Captur has got decent boot space. We've got just over 400 liters, but there's another nifty feature which increases the boot space of this vehicle. If you go to the back seats, you can push them forward, and that gives you even more space on top of this 400 liters. But overall, I'm quite happy with the space. On the inside of this new Renault Captur, we've got a completely redesigned infotainment screen, we've got a completely redesigned dashboard as a whole, and I must say, it's quite ergonomically friendly. This is the top-of-the-range Intense variant, so we've got a 9.3-inch touchscreen infotainment system, which gives me Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I've also got a digital instrument cluster, and I've got a leather steering wheel and a few creature comforts that come with this top spec. I've also got this e-shifter, as they call it, which feels a little bit strange as you're shifting gears, but it's quite easy to use. The seats feel good, the materials used on the seats are also very good, and compared to the competition out there, it's actually quite competitive. Backseat space is not bad. If you look at it from a length perspective, my knees are not complaining at all. But when it comes to the width of the car, it's a little bit snug. I would battle to fit 3 of me in here comfortably. Yes, it would fit, but it would be a bit tight. We do have creature comforts such as aircon vents. We've also got 2 USB ports, so charging is sorted. It's quite a pretty interior inside here, if only the plastics were just a little bit nicer. So I must say, compared to the previous Captur, this car feels much newer, it feels more poised on the road, and as a result, you've got quite a confidence-inspiring Renault Captur. It's powered by a 1.3-litre turbocharged engine, which produces 113 kilowatts and 217 Newton-meters of torque, which is very good, especially when you compare it to its rivals. Added to that, this car is mated to a 7-speed double-clutch system, and I'm quite happy with how well calibrated the engine and gearbox are in this vehicle. Renault does claim that you'll get 6.6 liters per 100 kilometers as an average, which to me is very good. The Intense model that I'm currently in gives me the added benefit of having lane keep assist. If I track ever so slightly, I get a nice vibration on my steering wheel, and I can calibrate that vibration to be more intense or less intense. I've also got a blind spot monitoring system that helps me to make good decisions when it comes to taking gaps and overtaking. To me, this Renault Captur translates what it's got on paper onto your driving experience quite well. And just like that, we have reached the end of the new Renault Captur launch out in beautiful KZN, as you can see. I've walked away quite impressed with this vehicle because not only does it look good on the outside, but most importantly, it feels good on the inside, particularly the way the vehicle drives. It starts off at approximately 450,000 Rand and tops out just under 500,000 Rand, which to me is not bad for this segment. But only time will tell with how South African consumers are going to react to this quirky French crossover. Welcome back to Ignition GT. The first Renault Captur debuted in South Africa nearly 8 years ago and helped the French manufacturer make inroads into one of the most lucrative sectors in the South African vehicle market. The new one has been a long time coming, but will it build on the success of its predecessor? Gentlemen, what do you think? Because this is a car that overseas has been around and we've been waiting for it. But I must say, I was still quite impressed by it, even though it's not exactly new in our market. But what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, nice looks. I think they have improved the looks. It's very much a derivative of the previous one, you know, and yet it is all new. I was checking out the specs. It's got a longer wheelbase. It's got different dimensions. It is an all new car, and I do like the looks. I must say, it looks classy. It's quite a, in that for that segment, quite a premium vehicle. You can say in the midline crossover segment. So. It's got premium features inside, etc., and a lovely little engine. So
very true. I must say that engine was the standout for me. I mean, I enjoyed just how punchy that little 1300 turbo is. What did you think, Ntako?
I mean, bigger and better. It's it's taken Renault to finally bring it to South Africa. I mean, blame COVID, but yeah, it's finally here and boasts, I mean, significant changes over the predecessor. Yeah, I mean that engine. I ended up asking myself at the launch, why is this so late to arrive in the party? And also the gearbox as well. That gearbox is, you know, very smooth. And coming to think of it, you think, why can't they install the same gearbox to the Clio?
100%.
Instead of the 5-speed manual.
Yes.
Like, okay.
Yes.
But overall, it's a brilliant car.
There was a lot of Renault Clio elements I also found in the vehicle, speaking about the Clio. And I like that because it felt a bit chuckable, dare I say it. And I remember on the launch, you know, we drove it in these
twisties,
back roads and these twisties in KZN. And I was quite surprised that a crossover can feel this nimble. I like the fact that, you know, it feels like that, but we are petrol heads at the end of the day. Do you think the consumer would want perhaps a softer suspension on the car?
Yes, I do, because we hit so many bumps and speed bumps on that launch route. And that was my one complaint. It was a little bit harsh, you know. Yet, it is chuckable as well, so that's a plus side. But I think for that class of vehicle, I would think a slightly softer suspension setup.
True.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, overall practicality, I also found that boot space-wise wasn't bad. And this overall spacing of the vehicle, it's often times where we find these crossovers are meant to be more practical. But in the end, you look at the boot space and you're like, this is actually like a little
tiny.
100%. What do you guys think of that? Do you think it will work for a small family, for instance?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's 400 liters at boot. And you can get more by, you've got that adjustable back seat thing.
That you can move for how many centimeters?
I don't know, but quite a lot.
I think it was 16 centimeters, something like that.
Quite a bit of extra space. So
that expands the boot space further. And you can chuck in a few sizable items in the boot.
Very much so. And lastly, pricing. What do you guys think of that?
A little bit on the steep side, personally. What's it, 450 and 500,000, for the two versions.
I don't know. I think it's fair, but it could be, obviously, we all want a bit more offer in terms of when it comes to the pricing. Competition-wise, do you think it's right up there?
I would give it a preference if I were to choose between the competition.
Okay.
I don't know what Stuart thinks.
It's got a premium feel, which is kind of half justifies that price. But at first, that price, I thought, I was expecting it sort of upper 300s to 400 kind of level, and it's gone a notch above that.
That's true. That's true. And I mean, in that segment, you've got the likes of a VW T-Cross. You know, you've got the T-Roc will probably lean more on the more expensive side of things. But that T-Cross segment, I think, is probably where it plays in most spaces. But it's funny for me, when I looked at it, I actually think it offers a little bit more from a spacing perspective. To me, it feels a little bit bigger than the likes of a T-Cross. Don't you guys think so?
It does, yes.
Do you think that the market's going to react quite well to this model?
I hope so, because I like the car.
I mean, look at the Clio, how it's doing. It's everywhere. So that really shows how South Africans are like towards the brand.
Very much so.
So I wouldn't be surprised if this, is at the top on the sales charts.